In today's show, we look at the serious subject of rape and gender-based violence. Sandra Prinsloo highlighted this recently at the Inibos in her play Kampoer. The biggest festival on the Mpumalanga calendar was held recently in Nelspruit after a 3-year break. With COVID-19 behind us, Inibos took its rightful place as Mpumalanga's biggest and most important festival. Amongst the many highlights this year was the production of Kampoer with Sandra Prinsloo. It is based on the books of Francois Smith and Nico Moolman. This powerful drama is based on Susan Nel, who endured an unspeakable ordeal during the Anglo-Boer War, being raped and left for dead. Sandra Prinsloo's extraordinary tour de force performance, which has won her universal praise, was brought to this year's Inibos with great success.
Dis hy wat hulle hier na toe gebring het, Christian Skutte. Ma gaan sit op die grond pap soos 'n lappop. En ek weet sommer, dis ons laaste dag op die plaas.
Well, firstly, when I first read the story, which was based on a real story, I found it a most fascinating story. And then secondly, I always thought it would be a movie, actually. I thought it would be a film. And then when I was offered the chance to do it on stage, I thought how brilliant, because I've always loved the story and I always wanted to do it. And then I could see that it could become a stage play. Then when I got Laura Foot on board, well, there was not a question in my mind that I should do it.
Maar waar is die leeggraf? My leeggraf.
For the character, I think challenging thing was for her to just carry on with her life, to find a new life. I mean, after such complete violation, being left for dead, not having anybody to really talk about, you know, luckily undergoing the care of Tisetso and Mamelo, the two black people that feature in the play. I think that was extremely lucky for her. But how do you carry on with your life? How do you... And I suppose I also have enormous empathy for her because she could never, ever enter into an emotional, romantic or sexual relationship again, you know, ever in her life. And in fact, she was 18 when she was raped, so she never had a relationship with anybody before that. So she was deprived of that for the rest of her life.
Wat op God se aarde het my besiel. Ek probeer om my gedagtes te fokus, maar ek kan.
So I suppose empathy and love can be quite close. I feel enormous empathy for anybody who's gone through this extraordinary trauma and who survived it and who's found a way to deal with it. You know, and she had to find quite an extreme way, because if you think back to the time she was living in, there wasn't anybody to help you, to talk to, you know, how do you get rid of that emotional baggage, of that terrible invasion? I think the message is for everybody. I think it's not only for rape victims. I certainly think it's for perpetrators as well. It's sad that Interpol has named South Africa as the rape capital of the world. The statistics say that more than 40% of women can expect to be raped in their life in South Africa. And that's an enormous and awful statistic. How do you bring up your children? How do you bring up your sons? What do you teach them? Because it is endemic in South Africa. It's frightening. How are you going to go about this to change it? How will you change men's perception about owning women's lives?
Lots to think about here. It sends chills down my spine. Our guest in studio today is Taryn Lekoch. She has first-hand experience of the horrific act of rape. She became a victim in 2021 whilst training for the Comrades. She was brutally attacked, beaten and assaulted and spent time in hospital. But this brave lady has turned her experience around and is now helping others. Here with her story is Taryn. Welcome to the sofa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us shortly, briefly, what was this ordeal?
I was training for Comrades Marathon. I'm an avid runner. I run a lot, and I spend a lot of time running by myself, as many runners do. You know, that's our time. And someone came out from the bushes and I was attacked.
Taryn was dragged onto the banks of the Crocodile River, where she was assaulted and raped. She managed to fight back, ran into the river and swam to a nearby island. Eventually, she returned to the road where she was attacked and flagged down a passing car. The occupants of the car called an ambulance and she was taken to the hospital, where she was admitted to ICU.
But I guess you don't think it's ever going to happen to you until it does, and then you realize that you're not untouchable or anything, and you change in that moment. You know, you aren't the same person anymore, no. And you realize that if you can get through something like that, there must be sort of a greater purpose. Like you must have more to give. There must be something more, and I guess that's what I've been searching for.
Darren, I mean, you've got a master's in finance. You've worked in Botswana, in South Africa, in the UK, in London, and you gave that all up and you've dived into something totally different.
I think a big thing for me was that GRIP got into contact with me whilst I was in ICU in hospital. And the founder of GRIP, her name is Barbara Kenyon, she actually counseled me and helped me. She somehow managed to pull me out from being in like a really terrible place, because I wasn't in a good place. And yeah, she kind of, along with my family and friends and everyone, she kind of got me going again and sort of took me through the GRIP process, you know, the process of trauma, the process of healing. She worked through a lot of those ups and downs with me. And I just became exceptionally interested in GRIP and what GRIP does, and her work as the founder of GRIP. And we sort of discussed in the future possibly me being involved in GRIP, and I just became so hungry for it. Like, I'm never going to get justice. Like, the person that harmed me, I'm never going to find him. It's highly unlikely. I mean, the DNA testing in our country is really far behind. I still don't have any DNA results back from, and it's been over 2 years. Plus I swam through a river, so my DNA is very likely to be compromised. So how do I get justice? Like, if I can't get it for myself, then at least I can get it for other people. And so when Barbara said to me, like, listen, our financial manager has resigned, like, you've got everything needed to run the finance of the organization. GRIP is growing really fast. We need someone that's like young, dynamic, got energy, got passion. I just thought, like, let me do this.
What does GRIP stand for the viewers?
So GRIP is the Greater Rape Intervention Project Group. Yeah. So basically what we are doing is we are helping victims turn into survivors. So that is our whole sort of the vision of what we're doing. So we'd like to take people who are vulnerable and who've been through something extremely traumatic and turn them into somebody that feels strong and empowered and that can use their experience in a positive way.
Yeah.
So we try and walk the journey with anyone that reports a rape or gender-based violence, right from when they report, right up until their court date. We have staff in all of the various points of entry, at the court, at police stations, at hospitals, to be part of that whole journey and support you throughout.
Tell me, I'm interested, you just mentioned that you take these victims and you turn them into survivors.
I think, you know, there's a lot that we can do to help the victims. Like, for an example, something that we believe very strongly in is pre-court training. Not a lot of people get their day in court. And so when you do, it's really important that you are ready for it, that you know what to expect, that you know the court process, that you know the kind of questions that you're going to be asked, especially young children and minors. And it's not just the court procedures. It's, you know, if you don't have anywhere to go, you'll be surprised, majority of our cases, about 60% of our cases is a known perpetrator, which means that it's somebody that you know that's harmed you. And so many of our survivors land up in our shelters. So we do have 2 shelters. And that's, I think, where we have the biggest opportunity to turn things around for a woman. Because we can teach you a skill, we can teach you how to garden, how to sew, how to cook, how to start your own small business, how to become independent and not return, you know, back to that horrible cycle of violence. Because that's what it is. It's a cycle of violence, especially with survivors of domestic abuse, because we're not just dealing with rape, we are also dealing with domestic violence, which is a huge problem in Mpumalanga.
Is there a special message you want to send out to women that, or men, that is basically going under this whole gender-based violence, sexual assault, rape? Just on a final note.
I think I have 2. I think the first one, which is very much just based on it's everything we say in a group interview. But, you know, if you are involved, if there is a rape or you're involved in a rape or there's gender-based violence that's you've experienced in any way, please report within 72 hours. I think that's the most important thing to get out to anyone that's listening. Within 72 hours, we can give you post-exposure prophylaxis, which means that we can prevent you from contracting HIV and AIDS. And I feel like you owe it to yourself. There's no shame in reporting. So you owe it to yourself both to get the psychosocial support that you need, but also just to take care of yourself and your body and get the medical attention that you need. And then my second thing is to say that if you have experienced gender-based violence, like, don't give up. Like, it doesn't mean that your life is over. And I know that it might feel at the time like everything is different and that you're not the same person and that life has to change and come to an end. But you can either let it destroy you, or you can let it light a fire inside of you. And you can do bigger and you can do better things. Yes. Like, don't give up. Rather just let it make you stronger.
Taryn, thank you so much. You're probably one of the bravest women I know. And I've got a lot of empathy what you've gone through. And I'm saluting you for standing up and thriving and being strong and being brave and courageous and having this conversation today on Shepherd's Sofa.
Thank you.
I hope this means a lot to our viewers.
Thank you.
If you have gone through a similar experience, remember there is help out there. You don't need to suffer in silence. Go to www.grip.org.za or call 0800 428 428. That's our show for today. Join us next time for more of Mpumalanga from the Sofa.